Get wild. Let's get wild.
Happy day.
Episode 26, 27, I think, Daniel.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think so.
yeah,
Botch Wrestling Podcast. I'm Jim. That's Dan. Uh, Last episode, we were just watching the Raw after Mania and just reacting
yeah.
to everything then, which it was good to have a good Raw after that pay per view. It feels like it's been forever since we've had a Raw that's been good after that, right? I mean,
Certainly been a few years.
yeah, what, 3 years, I think?
Certainly,
At
at
least?
least,
At
at
least
least.
3 years, and then even then, it just felt like they were like, okay, this is cool, but not like the whole show felt put together like the way it's been, right? So,
Yep.
what are they on? 18 or 19 straight sellouts now, and now they're on the UK tour, which we could talk about a little bit later because there's a m- match on there that I want to talk to you about that I think is just outrageous that it's on the UK tour, and I'm starting to be under the belief that we should be able to watch house shows on Peacock if we have the $10 a month without commercials, because this match is just outrageous that they're throwing on the UK tour just like it's just a casual day. So we'll talk about that at the later end of the show. Um, Real quick, Dan, I just want you to know if you have to get any injuries fixed on behalf of the podcast, don't worry. We'll have the podcast
You'll pay.
pay for them
The
because
business will pay for them.
I don't know how you run a wrestling promotion and don't know off the top of your head if you paid for your top superstar, your biggest signing in company history, to get his tricep fixed. Like, I don't know. So that
Yeah.
came out today from Tony, right? Like, uh, hold on. Let me see where I had it. That he was basically asked if it's true or not that CM Punk had to pay for his own um, treatment, right, for the injuries and therapy and what went on, right? And you sent me the script of it, but I found it kind of funny that when he answered it, he said, normally, he said, if there's an injury that happens in the ring, the company will pay for it. But I didn't catch it the first time, but the more I was thinking about it, I find it hysterical now that he classified it by saying an injury that happened in the ring.
Oh, I didn't think about that either till you just said it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't think about that. That's interesting.
So I'm wondering if they stiffed him on it because it happened during the backstage brawl. And they're like, no, we don't cover that. You know what I mean? Because he specifically called that out, right? Do you have
Yeah,
do you have the quote up in front of you? Yeah, here. I think I have it.
I
Uh,
mean that would be. I, I mean, legally, like, well, I don't know. I guess it depends on the state they were in, maybe, or maybe it depends on the state they're
so
incorporated in.
maybe
But
it was somewhere else I saw because right here on Wrestling News, Tony said, we typically do pay the expenses. I'll have to look into that. I can't say for sure. It doesn't sound right to me, which doesn't make sense. He can't, like, he just doesn't know that Punk If that's the case, I would reimburse him. Honestly, I didn't think that was the case, and it didn't sound right. Oh yeah, he did. Never mind. I didn't think that was the case, and it doesn't sound right. So I would have to look into that. Typically, we do cover these medical expenses, especially for something that occurred in the ring, as that did. Okay, so he classified there, but that's still weird.
Oh, as that did. Yeah.
But it's still weird, he said, for something that occurred in the ring. So I would have to look into that. Can't say for sure. Is that not still a little weird, man? Like,
Yeah, maybe. He's just weird when he talks though,
yeah, he is out of.
also.
Yeah, he is
So
all over the place. Jesus, if I could talk tonight, I'm starting to pull a Tony.
I mean, it could just be like it is a little weird, but it could just be him because he like rambles a lot
He
and
does. Yeah.
he just kind of starts and stops thoughts and like yeah, if he I mean, in either way, I think from a general standpoint, like it happened at work either way. You know, Rhea didn't get hurt in the ring. I'm sure WWE's paying for it. I know it was part of a bit, but like, she technically didn't get hurt in the ring,
Yeah.
So
It's yeah. It's
it's weird. It is weird.
yeah. So I mean, you think if we ask Dana, like which of his fighters are getting surgery this month, he'll be able to like spit him off the top of his head?
Yes.
I think so too. What about
I think
Hunter?
if you asked, yeah, I mean, it's usually a far less number. But yes, I think he would be aware of, and let's talk about one thing, like using Dana as the example. Dana has probably known, even though sometimes he wouldn't discuss it, he has known McGregor's rehab from
Correct.
day one,
Correct.
right? Like there isn't a time that I don't think you could walk up to Dana and say, "What's the latest with McGregor?" and he couldn't tell you. Like I'm sure he could. So
Right.
when you're talking about your most polarizing draw, in your company, like how does any owner, head booker, GM, whatever they are, not know what the status
Right.
is, not know, like, how are you not checking with that person,
Well,
checking in with them? Like, that was the other thing Punk said. He didn't hear anybody from anybody for months.
yeah.
Like, even if you're not going to do it, how do you not have a guy doing it? Who's the head of your team that's doing all that? Like he said that the doctor helped him, Samson, but he also knew him already, had a relationship with him. It's wild.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. And if you're the only guy doing the booking, so are you just not paying attention to your roster at all? Then, like, are you just kind of like, you know what I mean?
Well, and two, like I'm thinking back to like Ray Phoenix when he snapped his arm, and the guy from Top Flight who snapped his ankle, and a couple of others who got hurt, and MJF, right? Like MJF had some legitimate injuries. Some he wrestled through, some he took time from. Adam Cole, like you think Tony doesn't know about those? Those like I guess it's possible he doesn't, but it just seems like this was a little more purposeful or you know just writing on the wall, like Punk said in the interview, like he wasn't wanted there anymore, but Tony wouldn't release him
Right.
original.
Right.
But he knew he wasn't wanted there anymore, and even Tony was showing that. Like, how did you not know? Like, and how do you not know you weren't footing the bill?
Yeah.
Like,
That's
you might have more money than a person could spend in a lifetime, but how do you not know you're footing that bill? I'm sure it wasn't a cheap surgery.
well, right. Because he said it was the other tricep, right?
Yeah, it's the
It was,
opposite one
yeah.
of what he
So
yeah
it's this
what he
current one,
did
yeah.
today.
So it's left one, yeah.
And clearly, and I suppose no two injuries are exactly the same, but like he said, the rehab on this one is night and day difference from the other one. And, again, admitting that no two injuries are ever the same, but why is that? That's because probably the machine behind you gave you the best care you can get in the United States.
Correct.
Like,
Correct. That's what it comes down to, right?
right. I mean,
like we've seen it all the time. The people that can pay for it, they usually get the best care, right? Like that's how it goes. Like,
yeah,
it's just wild because it's like once again another report that comes out that just makes Tony look terrible. Like, and you can't even say, well, you you can't even say like a positive thing of, well, he's that focused in the booking. It's like, okay, so if he's that focused in the booking, is he not paying attention to who he actually has on the roster? And he's just fantasy booking all this, and then he's hoping whoever shows up shows up. Like, what are we saying right now? That's not what like can go on. If you're the guy that's in charge of all this, that's not allowed. Like, you can't do that and then be like, oh yeah, I'll think about it. To be, I think it was more of, I wonder if that's something that like Tony can't say his patent. Yeah, I can't talk about that, but and then on to the next question type thing that he always says, right? Like, because he's known for that classic. Yeah, well, sorry, but at this time I can't talk about that. But like, and then he's just on, right? So it's kind of like, I don't know, but I guess they did something halfway decent, depending on what you're hearing. Yeah,
what you believe.
yeah. I mean, TBS themselves hasn't come out and said it to the public, but TBS praised AEW rating after airing CM Punk backstage footage. I mean, there's a couple things here, right? Tony's the one that came out and said this. Take that for what you will, right? Like, so that's the kind of like, I don't know. I feel like whenever I hear something that Tony says, I treat it the same way that I hear when Meltzer says something. I'm like, all right, let me pull up Google. Got to make sure this isn't a lie again. Like that type of thing. Secondly, Shivani was on a podcast and said he was just doing that to give the Bucks heat. That really wasn't how he was feeling. That's a conversation that falls into this, right? And then thirdly and finally, if there's nothing else you wanted to throw into this disaster of, I guess, wrestling, because it's not entertainment, it's wrestling over there.
Well, now it's becoming wrestling in both.
Oh, sorry, Dan. I didn't know you were jumping wagon there. But
I'm not jumping wagon, but there's definitely been a distinct change in WWE not using sports entertainment as much recently.
Yeah,
noticeable.
That's fine.
Noticeable.
Yeah, they can do what they want. Anyways, Jesus, Dan, throw me off the rails.
I'm just making the point that I think it was stupid. I think it was stupid to ban that term in WWE from the beginning. Like, why can't you could call it both? You really could call it both.
Yes, and we've said that for years, but the guy in charge was too busy figuring out who was pooping on that night. So,
Yeah. I didn't expect you to say that.
Why? It's what are we talking about? Allegedly? Okay.
Alleged poop gone. Yeah.
Yeah, alleged. Yeah. 1,200 text messages. Well, yeah, let's throw allegedly in front of there. Yeah, fine. Come and get me. You can take my Volkswagen. That's pretty much all I have in my name. Yeah, I mean, so I guess they did get a bump for that first half of the show, right?
They got a bump. I pulled it up. They got a bump at the very beginning, probably because people similar to like me were waiting to see if they're going to start with that. Then they literally dropped 130,000 people within 15 minutes, and then they bumped back up when they went to the video, and then they just continued to go down the rest of the show.
So, I mean, what was the total rating then? Like, is there a cumulative
Yeah,
rating for that show?
they yeah, so their total the rating in the demo was a 0.33.
Okay.
The the total viewership, their high was 981. Their low was 723. Um so the total viewers was 819,
So is
which
the largest total audience since February is what I see here, and the best demo since January
um
is what I'm getting off of this sourced article.
yeah, that might be true. I'm trying to confirm that right now. Yes, highest since February 28th. Best demo since January. So yeah, I mean, but so they gained. So another part of that, those statistics was up 9% from the previous week, up 6% from the trailing 4 weeks average, but down year over year for the same time period. With the demo, which is I guess a little interesting, up 30% in the demo, and up 20% over the last 4 week average. So they got a little bit of a pop for sure, for it, which I think was expected, but it didn't do out of the ballpark numbers
No,
for them.
no, and
I
I
mean, this fluctuation isn't really that drastic for them. They kind of do this like they've been doing this for a while. They bounce back and forth somewhere between 7 to 1 million.
yeah,
Like
but they
that's
have
kind of
yeah, but they obviously hit one of their goals, right? If this is the highest total audience since February and best scores demo scores since January. So obviously they hit something that they haven't been hitting. But what was do you have the ratings for the following day? Or following
follow. Wait,
weeks, sorry.
yeah, yeah, yep.
So how big was
So
that drop
so
off?
so this past week, um, so they had 762 and a 2.6 rating, so down 7% from the CM Punk footage episode, down 2% from trailing 4 weeks, and in the demo, down 13% from the previous week. Um, so most of whatever they gained, they immediately lost.
So do you really think TBS was like, "Hey, good job, Tony," based on that one thing?
No, I mean, I don't know. Maybe not. Like the way he put it out in his tweet too. Like those numbers don't seem to make any sense. But like anything, every company, every network is going to skew the data, right? The line, what's the line? Stats don't lie, just statisticians do, right? Like you can twist stats however you want. So they might be counting, rerun views or well, I don't know if they can get like DVR viewership and crap like that, but um, you know, so he tweeted out some like crazy numbers that didn't make any sense to me, but I just take that for every every company is going to do that, right? Like, um, I was trying to see where they rated amongst competition, but I don't have that right in front of me. As far as how they sized up against whatever else was on. But typically they've been top five on the night, but it's a Wednesday night. I don't know what else is on that's really that competitive, unless there happens to be something big. Like they're gonna have trouble now coming up. Hockey playoffs, basketball playoffs, right? Like
Baseball with
baseball starting or
with the
started,
TNC.
Right. So like they're gonna have trouble pulling ratings with hockey playoffs and basketball playoffs going strong, and basketball playoffs is more intriguing this year than it has been in other years, I think. Personally, I'm not a huge NBA guy, but you know, um,
Survivor.
Survivor is Survivor back? I didn't even realize that.
Do episodes every Wednesday on CBS, Dan.
Really?
Yep.
I didn't realize that show was still
Season
around.
46.
Okay.
Wow.
Show that doesn't die. It's like The Simpsons.
Anyways, that was kind of rude.
So, why?
But
I love The Simpsons.
yeah, so now that you brought all that up, there's something that I've been seeing passing around on Twitter today. I haven't been seeing it. Uh, I haven't been seeing it confirmed yet, but I saw a few people pass this around, and then I saw it mentioned in the Squared Circle forum as being a discussion topic. But there are sources saying that AEW has scrapped the Arthur Ashe Stadium over fears they'll be unable to sell it out at 23,000 capacity. And I guess
Oh, for yeah, what's the show they do that? But then didn't they actually announce that they're doing Forbidden Door there?
yeah, but did they say it for sure?
Maybe not.
To
Maybe not.
all I see on Fightful now is to potentially be held in Arthur Ashe. However, so this article, no, so news regarding this was April 9th.
Oh, you're right. You're right. They did announce it. It's in Long Island.
Yeah.
Oh no, that might be Arthur Ashe. Hold on, because technically Queens is part of Long Island, even though that
So
everybody says.
Fightful says it was previously reported that the AEW New Japan Forbidden Door was going to potentially be held in Arthur Ashe Stadium in Queens. However, it appears that any potential plans for that are now off the table.
Yeah, it's at the UBS Arena, which is on Long Island.
So then there's another part of that tweet going around that I saw.
Oh, that's where the Islanders play.
That Tony.
What?
Nothing, Dan.
I'm just telling you.
I
That's
know.
where the Islanders play.
That Tony then, I guess, reached out to New Japan to see if they would pay for half, and they said no.
It seems odd to me though that why I don't know, why are you doing a show? Why are you going into business with New Japan to do a show that they're not paying for?
I guess
Part of.
New Japan had concerns about paying half for a stadium that's probably going to be 80% empty. Because they're not going to get a discount on the stadium price, right? Like, you're going to pay, you're going to have to pay what you're going to pay, right? Like,
yeah, the price is the price.
Yeah. They don't care what you sell. You still have to pay no matter what it is, right? Like,
Sure.
Yeah, so I don't. And that was last week, and then I guess it's been passing around as being an update earlier today a couple times with the New Japan part being added to it. So once again, like if that is true, right? Like we've always said with the wrestling stuff, just like anything else in life, it's the gray area, right? Like it's what's in between is usually true, right? Like, do you think that New Japan looked at their past shows and was like, "What are you guys doing trying to have this at a 23,000 seat stadium? And we're not paying for half if this doesn't get it done." Because New Japan is very like business centric, right? That's the culture over there. Like they don't do like they make sure that everything they plan to do, they're getting the most out of it that they possibly can. So like that doesn't look like a good sign to me. Like if all of a sudden you got a downgrade. So the tweet said that Arthur Ashe is around 23,000. Do you know how much that stadium in Long Island is?
I think it's probably yeah, I'm looking it up right now to confirm, but it's for concerts 19,000. So for hockey 17. So you got it. It's probably closer to the 19 for a wrestling setup.
Yeah, probably between that 18 and 19 depending on the floor.
I mean, it also depends on how crazy they go with their stage, and so they block out a quarter of
so UBS
seats.
Arena on their site says 18.5 here. So it's
so
it's probably between that, right? Between 18.5 and a little bit over 19 depending on stage and the ramp and what they're putting on the floor, right? That's usually the two biggest things compared to what
Right,
we've
all the
seen with
floor seats.
WWE this past 2 weeks. Like they've brought back the stage, they've put the floor seats out there. Yeah, so it's like with that being out there before Tony came out and said this whole thing about TBS, like does that further hinder your thought process of that being true? Because that's a bold claim to make after like if I feel like if they really did had a change to go smaller, I definitely feel like it was brought up on Do Japan's side of like, what are we doing?
Yeah, I mean, but it's not that much smaller though.
It's
Now that I
but
think about it.
yeah, but 5,000. Yeah,
Mm, no, they only had 13.8 in 2022, according to this.
yeah, yeah. I don't.
So, so I mean,
So when
going
would that
by,
show be? When was that show expected to be? Do you know?
it's June 30th. It's not expected. It's on their website. It's June 30th. They actually put out all their pay-per-views and I think events for the rest of the year already.
Yeah. So that would be.
So they had
So that would be
Grand
Wednesday.
Slam, Grand Slam at Arthur Ashe, the first one, 2021, had 20,100. 2022 had 13.8, and 2023 at 11,000.
Well, that's probably what they're
So
afraid of again, right?
right, because the trend is bad. Now, I also remember at the time a lot of complaints about Arthur Ashe because you're literally driving into the city to get there. It's like doing Madison Square Garden. It's a real pain in the butt, you know.
Yeah, that's fine. But
I meant for your fans. I mean, it's a pain in the butt for their company too, but like that might be also another reason people don't want to go. Like they don't want to deal with that.
yeah, sure, sure. I'm not giving them that excuse though because it's been on a decline. Like if it stayed steady like around 17, 18 for the past couple of years and not the 21.5 or 22, then I'd be like, yeah. If it was just 1 year of a drastic decline, I don't know. I just think Do Japan probably asked them to like, listen, are we for real on this? And I just pulled up the Arthur Ashe events, and the only thing they have is a U.S. Open day session, the 20. No, yeah, a U.S. Open session 22, the men's side, June 9th at noon. Nothing else shows for June besides that U.S. Open session. So, yeah, it's wild, man.
Yeah,
It's
yeah. I mean, Forbidden Door too. Just looking at them, like the first one, right? That attendance, that was United Center. That attendance was 16.5 last year. You and I were there. Toronto, that was 14.8. Um, I don't. I guess I don't know for sure, like the capacities of United Center versus Scotiabank Arena, but let's see. 19, 18, 19 is what it's saying, for Scotiabank. United Center's probably around the same, right? 18, 19, 23. Actually, United Center says 23 for a concert setup. So, and 21 for a basketball setup. So,
yeah. I mean, it's weird.
you
Like
know,
there is some
they-
concern there. Like we can't just write that off, right? Like we can't just.
right. Like, but yeah. And I think generally speaking, you can't probably expect more than 15,000 if the trend, at best, if the trend stays the same. I think the first Forbidden Door was a really cool idea. 2022, AEW had its best numbers in 2022, right? It was new, it was something different. It was capitalizing a tiny bit on Raw being down, as
Yeah,
a show. SmackDown was still a
yeah,
great show, but Raw kind of sucked.
Yeah.
NXT was good at times, but they had kind of done a change, so they were still rebuilding what it is to what it is
Right.
today.
Yeah,
So
because Sean just took
NXT was
over.
down. Right. Well, and like right because Vince had kind of calmed down and changed everything. Right. Remember, I mean NXT in its heyday. Right. You wrote the article about that. Right. The black and gold NXT was like,
Yes.
and then that
Resort
all
con.
changed.
Yes.
Right. So, AEW capitalized right place, right time. And then they brought in this idea of working with a different promotion, which just wasn't easily seen, in our wrestling memory. And they
Not even
cashed in on
spoken
it.
of.
Right. I mean, and they cashed in on it in Chicago, which is just a hotbed of wrestling fans. Um, and now it's not unique anymore. It's not the company's not fresh. The company's not riding a high. WWE is at its highest it's been as far as since the Attitude Era. And Forbidden Door is like the concept can be cool, but it's just not new anymore either.
I think so. I think we talked about it on the ride home when we were there last year. I think they got to take a year off from it.
Yeah, well, I think they also miss the opportunity of like doing story with it. They
Yeah.
don't do story with
No.
it, which the first year was the story was it's a forbidden door.
Correct.
Last year it was just here's a bunch of matches of people you may or may not get a chance to see, and really the only match that had a story was Danielson and Okada, right? Because it was you know the best
The
versus
best.
the
Yeah.
best, right? Who's the best wrestler in the world, and then Kenny and Omega who had story elsewhere but had no real story leading up to this show. So those two matches were the highlight. Everything else was just thrown together. Like, oh, Punk, you're gonna face this old guy that's been around New Japan forever, and oh, Jack Perry, you're gonna face whoever he faced. I don't even remember now, but I thought it was a weird matchup at the time. And like, we'll give you Orange Cassidy, I think, and Zack Saber, and okay, it was a good match, but what there was no story. There was nothing to invest in, right? Um, and not only that, but it semi failed to deliver, right? The
Yeah.
Okada
I mean,
Danielson match had a weird ending. Kenny and Omega, I mean Kenny and Osprey, I thought was a really good match. I remember that just being kind of a crazy match. It was really good. Those two guys definitely have good chemistry. Okada and Danielson just had a weird ending, and like I don't know, and like the rest of it like just was what it was. And then we had that disaster of a 6-man tag with Jericho and Sting and all that. Remember how bad that match was?
yeah. It's not great, right? Like,
No.
I don't know. Like, it's just, and it's weird that like the article comes out today about Tony possibly discussing stepping down from being a booker. So it's like, is that him just thinking about that? Is that just a question? Has TBS said something? Like, it's kind of like there's a lot of things that are going around right now, just storylines of outside topics and events that it makes you truly wonder, like, what's going on behind the doors for AEW, right? Like, it just kind of like all
Yeah.
like all of these stories like hitting around this time. It's kind of like that's weird. That's even weirder. That's weird too. Like it's just I don't know. But yeah, I mean I agree. Like
I didn't take his booking comments as that he's thinking of stepping down anytime soon. I took it as he
no, but it's just
like
weird to discuss. I think right now what like there's so
somebody
much
asked.
bag. Yeah, but there's a way to say it and then just be like, but but look at what we're trying to do right now and bring it back to the fact that you're trying to put the company in the best path forward, right? Not like, yeah, may happen, blah blah blah. But it's I don't know. To me, it just I don't know. Like it's like I don't want to see it going away because I think they could do some things well with it. Um, a
Figure it
lot's
out.
a lot's gonna. I think a lot is determined on what their next deal's gonna be. I think that's gonna be a big story that we're gonna start hearing more about soon. Um, I do watch Raw every Monday, or at least I try to. But I do think AEW might be better off with one night a week from now, and then doing their Friday night show or weekend show online somewhere or stream it. But having just one dedicated program, I think it will help build the. Hey, did you see what happened on AEW last night? And they brought in such and such. Well, we're gonna have to tune in on Wednesday, right?
Yeah.
Because I just think like they have a shit ton of talent. Like we can't lie about that, right? Like they are fully
Oh.
loaded with talent. Fully loaded with talent. Do they do storylines? Not really. Do people understand?
Not in the way, yeah, not in the way you expect. Like they have such a weird.
Just not in
Tony,
the way that you would. But it's not even in a storyline way that you would see TNA do, or if you watch OVW on YouTube, that's closer to like the NWA way of doing storylines. Like I'm not saying like it all has to be perfectly pieced together like WWE is. It can't be because WWE has a home and they have a way writing team, right? So like it can't like without Tony investing to get what Triple H has under him, there's no way that Tony could do that all himself, right? That's probably what 20 to 30 guys that are writers, or 20 to 30 people that are writers for WWE. Like they pull people off of Saturday Night Live to come write for them. Like that's how talented these people are. And Tony's just a dirt sheet fan that has the cash to go play wrestling every Wednesday night. Like, unfortunately, and it kind of shows in the product of the show, right? Like, so it's kind of like I don't know. It's weird because there's a lot going. Like, there feels like a lot going on, and we're only getting like the tip of the iceberg to me. I think just by way.
they have a weird definition of what a story is too, right?
Yeah.
Like because Tony defended showing the video because he says it adds to the FTR Bucks story, and I'm like, give me a break. That like your story is that they were distracted. Come on, like like talk about like trying to pull the curtain back and just completely missing on pulling the curtain back that makes sense, right? Like they're not even in the video. They're not like the best you get out of that is he explained it is that well they almost had to go on first instead of going on third, and that screwed up their preparation for the match and then they lost to FTR. It's like okay, like it's just a weird. That's how you enhanced your story for this match. Like like that's terrible. That is terrible.
Hey, 130,000 people dropped. I mean, that should tell you all that you need
Yeah.
to know about that, right? 130,000 people said, "I'm gonna go find something else to do." Like
Yeah,
that.
I'll check. I'll check back.
Yeah,
I'll check back when you actually air it.
yeah. Or I'll just watch it on Twitter. That too. Like,
Yeah. Until it all got taken down.
yeah. Which before we get into that topic, um, what do you think their numbers will be for that Forbidden Door show?
For like pay-per-view buys or actual attendance or both?
Let's go attendance. It's out of what? So we'll say capacity is around 19. What do you think?
I mean, I think they can still get 15.
That's what you're going
Probably.
with? 15?
Yeah, I think they can still get 15. I mean, I think it draws enough interest for their fan base, because their fan base worships New Japan in
Oh, yeah.
general. Like they're diehards, like worship New Japan, and I don't mean to say that as a negative thing. It's just a different section of wrestling fans, right? That are much more in tune with stuff that's not mainstream in the United States. And New Japan's just not mainstream. It's more well known than it was even 5 years ago, possibly thanks to a little bit of AEW giving it more exposure. But um, yeah, I think they can still 15. It's an easy destination to get to. That arena is going to be 30 minutes from JFK. Plenty of hotels there. There's plenty of options to go in, so you can get to New York City pretty quick on a train ride, drive in, whatever. You can stay a little bit further out on the island. It's on the summer, it's in the summer, so there are plenty of beaches out there, plenty of Airbnbs, so you can make a thing out of it and catch a show in an arena that's easy enough to get to and that isn't crazy to try to, you know, drive around. So yeah, I think 15 is probably like what they should hope for, what they can get. I think that's probably the top of what they can get. I don't think they can fill it, not now, unless they have some crazy card and a lot of story on it. You know,
Yeah, I
I mean, there's a chance I could be literally down there in that area for a work trip on the Friday prior to that show, but I don't see myself staying for the show.
I'm gonna go with 12-5. I think that's fair.
Okay.
I think 12-5. We'll have to figure out what we're actually betting on for this one because I'm undefeated against you.
That's right. I still owe you on the last bet.
So
You gotta get that.
um yeah, I mean, yeah, so that's the other thing too. They got their bump, right? They got what they wanted out of it. They got the bump in the show, they got the bump in the demographic. Then
For a
why all of
week.
us yeah, for a week, then why all of a sudden do you start taking it down if you're not regretting it?
Well, the only thing I'll say about that is not new for them to do that. They make what are they called? The DMCA claims or DCMA?
Yeah,
I
yeah, yeah,
forget the
yeah.
acronym.
Yep, that's right.
Um,
It's the same
yeah,
ones for YouTube. Yep.
yeah. So I mean, that's not new for them to do that. They've done that a lot. They tend to do it with more controversial things in the past too. So this is like kind of just what they do. I don't understand the only thing I can think of is even though I don't know that it was on that they posted it on their own social media, but they definitely go after people who put negative spins on it. Though the videos that didn't get taken down right away were ones that were spinning it positive for AEW. And that's what they've done in the past too, right? Um, they did it with a lot of the MJF stuff too. Um, his little like going off the deep end and telling Tony to fire him and then, calling him a mark and all that stuff. They were working round the clock to slash those clips um as best they could. Um, you know, I don't know what the purpose of that is, like why they do that. Like if you were going to post it on your own social media and you wanted to drive traffic to your feed and your YouTube, that I could understand. But I don't think they actually posted it on their own um, social media.
Yeah, so you said the key thing that I was looking for was they've done that before with controversial things that have been. So once again, they they did something, they realize they're not okay with it, then they yank it, and then it's oh yeah, we've been okay with it. That was all part of the plan. I mean, what are we doing here? Like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
Because your words to the press are yeah, we're worth this, but then everything before that is like if you first glance you're like oh they weren't okay with that, like they're like maybe that violated something, which I'm dying to hear too. Like, so if they do have an NDA, did that violate anything in the NDA? Do we think?
No, they don't have an NDA on that one.
Oh right,
Remember,
right, right, right.
he said that. Yeah. No, but the rumor going around was that CCTV footage in England is like protected under different laws. So
Right.
Like there might be a claim, but I'd be willing to bet that Punk and the WWE probably have discussed this in a sense of saying like it's not worth giving them the rub by
No,
suing them over it because what that footage didn't look bad for him. I mean,
yeah. So
by
it's
any stretch.
yeah. So everybody at WWE at in Stanford or wherever they are now probably said, yeah, that's fine. It just reinforced how good you looked, and it killed their company a little bit more. And I just pulled it up. It does fall under the data protection laws by the data controllers and data protection officers. So it is a thing. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like it's if you were running the company, would you have done it?
No.
I don't think I would have either.
Especially not for what it showed. You know, would I have considered it if it actually showed he was lying?
Yes, then that's a different story. Yes, yeah.
Maybe. Even then, I might have been like, he's gone. Like, what value is this really
Well,
bringing? That's my biggest thing. Is like, what value did this really bring because he's gone? If you wanted to prove he was lying, okay, maybe. If you wanted to prove, there was no audio, so if you wanted to prove like he instigated it, but who cares if he instigated or not? Like, he kind of said like, I went up to him, I said a few things, and then we got too close and I choked him a little. That's exactly what we saw, and I don't really care if he instigated it or not. Like, you know, and whatever. He lunges towards where Tony's general direction is, almost knocks the TV over. Like, I don't know. Like, what did I just see?
yeah.
Nothing.
I think if Punk took a bigger shot at the company or a bigger dig at the company on Ariel's podcast, and the footage backed up your company, I could see the opportunity to leak some parts of it out, and I think I would be okay with that if it was for the fact of protecting the company. But it kind of seemed like this dug you in a further hole of like,
Yeah.
and then even if the Bucks were not okay with it, it makes people hate them 10 times more now because they were the ones that showed it. And then, I mean, I don't know, like the whole Shivani thing too. Like there is no way to be. I'm calling BS on Shivani
I
and
am
how he was
too.
on the table because he looked exactly like he did at WCW, and we all know how that ended, right? So like, and it happened so quick. Like he turned into that. Like it wasn't like he prepared for the camera to turn back around and then he did it. Like when the camera came back, his head was in his hand already. So I don't know. Yeah, I'm calling BS on Shivani. I don't know. I don't think it's kind of like they went all in for a pop that they probably thought that they were going to be able to ride the wave on, and there's no wave from it. And now it feels like you have to mention CM Punk every Wednesday night to make sure your viewership gets above 800,000. If you don't, you're not going to get above 800,000. But then again, like we
Nope.
said before, on Wednesday nights, there's not a lot for it to compete against, right? As of right now. So they might. So we don't know what the talks are between TBS and Tony, right? Because we only hear from Tony. It's it's not like WWE where we hear from the people of Endeavor and Nick Khan of WWE, who is more the business side, and then we hear from Hunter and Creative. Like we hear from every level of WWE. We just hear from one guy on AEW. So it's kind of like we may never know until the day comes where unfortunately they may have to close their doors and it's WCW 2.0. Like it, right? Like that's like right if we get a book or something again, the death of AEW. Like that's the only thing I
Yeah.
can think of because TBS doesn't seem to be putting out a lot in their quarterly reports about it, anyways, either. So it's like,
Yeah.
do you know what I mean?
I just looked on YouTube, they have the video of the Bucks, the talking in the backstage, and it actually cuts out showing the footage and then goes right to FTR doing the promo in ring. So their own social media cut it out when they posted it. It was just like, what are we doing? Like so again, that goes to the idea of like, what value did it serve? It gave you a 9% bump in your viewership and rating for 1 week. That's all it did. That's all it did. I don't think anyone actually believes it adds any intrigue to the match or value to the match. It
And who cares about the Bucks and FTR again? What are we doing with all that talent?
right.
What are we doing? This is not friggin' 2010, and PWG is not open right now, and you're not throwing a super kick party. You have so much talent. And if I have to see another, oh my god, I'm gonna go on a rant again. But if I have to see another comment about you put anybody in the ring with the Bucks and the Bucks make them look that much better, I will give up my yearly salary plus my kid's 529 account to watch Trick Williams and Carmelo Hayes run circles around the Bucks, and they can even do it as a shoot as well. That's
New Forbidden Door.
that statement's just not. It's not even remotely close anymore. 130,000 people dropped. 130,000 people. I mean, you could have had them coming out of a cracked egg on WWE, and it probably wouldn't have been that many people. Like it's just, like it just.
Well, and
I don't know. It
and the
just sucks.
biggest,
Like it's.
I think the biggest like also thing that's been talked about a lot, and it's all just part of the bigger picture here. Ticket sales to their televised shows, and I have some numbers in front of me
Okay.
From Brandon, and AEW's Dynamite's ticket distribution is down 32% from last quarter. And last quarter was down 28% from the quarter prior. And quarter 3 was down in 2023 was down 13%. Like 32% down in tickets distributed for your flagship show. I mean, that's telling a story too. Like I don't care. I don't care what else is going on. Like that is a problem for you.
I
That is a huge problem for you because streaming deals and TV deals might make up a majority of your revenue, but like that's eventually going to be reflected by what your crowds are like. Now on the flip side, Raw 2024, the quarter we're in now, or the quarter just finished, up 70% from the prior quarter.
well, they're on what 19 sellouts over here.
No, I know. That's what I'm saying. Like it's way up. SmackDown, the last 3 quarters on this chart are all up 30% quarter over quarter. House shows for WWE, the second half of the year last year, up 45 and 34% quarter over quarter, and up 3% for Q1 in 2024. And they don't have the numbers yet for obviously Q2. But that's their house shows are going up. That's how good their product is right now. Like you just said, they're putting on matches overseas that are just crazy at house shows.
Sammy versus Finn Balor versus Gunther and Chad Gable for the IC title. That would sell out a house show over here in a matter of minutes. That 4-way match would.
Yeah.
I think that's better than 95% of the stuff that AEW can put on right now.
Yeah.
I mean, besides an Osprey, right? But then, like, you get to the point of where you run him down till the point he gets hurt, like Kenny did off, like after that 3 to 4 year run of winning every title, right? Because the body's not meant to take all that like consistently. So
Yep.
yeah, it's interesting, man. one product's taken off and like it feels like one product is barely staying alive, but then we're told, oh, it's doing excellent. Like it, I don't know. It's tough because I love listening to 83 Weeks, right? Because Eric, he was in the business, he ran the business, he gets it, right? But if he's telling us every episode, like these are the same signs that WCW started to have, like it gets me a little bit concerned. Of like, Tony, I know you hate Eric, but are you paying attention to this? Like, because you're gonna have a lot of people that don't have a job. Like, and his whole thing about storylines, I get he's putting his own twist on storylines, but how many times did Chris Hero and CM Punk sell out traveling the country? Or Chris Hero and Colt Cabana? You know what that is,
Right.
Tony? A storyline. People paid to see that match over and over and over again. They waited through a 2-hour show just for that one match. That's a storyline. That's you building reputation week after week after week after week. And please
Yep.
let the fandom go of the Bucks and FTR. I mean, Jesus. Like, but then that's the other thing too. Like, so this could be the last topic if you want to talk on this before we move on. But I feel like your second biggest signing, or top 5 biggest signing, Adam Copeland, was out there and basically told everybody, hey, we all love wrestling. We all started to love wrestling because of certain things. We all have our own thing, right?
Yep.
And then next week, his boss is out there with the Bucks throwing him under the bus. Like, what are we doing? Like, you just had probably what? The second biggest signing of all time, if you're looking at legacy wise in the company. Third biggest signing.
Yeah.
First ballot Hall of Famer. One of the key pillars in the Attitude Era. See what I did there? Cute. He was out there just trying to get everybody just to chill out and realize wrestling's wrestling. Watch what you want to watch. Enjoy what you want to enjoy. Don't take shots at us. We don't take shots at you. But, like, we feel that we're the best at what we do. You may be the best at what you do. But everybody just enjoy wrestling, right? And it turned out he just gets thrown under the bus.
Yep.
What are we doing? So that's not a good look either. You can't remember if you paid for the top talent in your company to get fixed, to therapy. You ghosted him for however long, and you didn't hear from him until he reached out to you guys. You showed footage to try and ride a wave that you thought you were going to catch. Never happened. Died very soon after you showed the footage. And you throw a top talent under the bus. Like, Tony has to realize that doesn't make him look good.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know if Tony has too many, like, yes men around him, but, like, Jesus, what are we doing? You know? So, yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting. We'll have to see how this continues and any more of those weird articles come out. I don't know, Dan. I don't know. I wish I could say I have hope in what's going on, but it's very tough. Very tough for me right now. And I think it bugs me that much because I don't want to see Copeland end his career this way. Like, I feel like he deserves better than this. I know he chose it. He didn't like the contract that WWE gave him. He probably wanted a more prominent role. But, like, I don't know. I just feel like it could be so much better, right? Like, so much better. So, yeah. I don't know. Was there anything else you want to speak on AEW since we usually save them for the second half of the show. We kind of swerved it on you guys today. No pun intended.
No, I guess I would only say that I haven't lost hope. I just don't know that I have a ton of hope either. I just think, one of two things is going to happen. They're either going to kind of coast along with what they're doing now, which I've said it before too. There is a part of me that believes that they're happy with what they're getting, right? Well, if you listen to Tony, like he's ecstatic about what they're doing, and internally what their numbers are and this and that. And if they get a deal, they have a deal to finish. He talked a little bit about that. He kind of hinted that, streaming their library will be a part of their next deal. And, so that sounds like they could be heading towards streaming or, maybe some kind of, 2-for-1 deal there with like maybe Warner Brothers or whoever. Um, so there might be just a portion of them that are happy coasting at 700 to 800,000 viewers. What their ticket sales is eventually going to be a problem for them, like just from a business sense.
Yes.
It's just, Eric talked about that all the time when he took over WCW. The biggest money vacuum they had was live events, and he just shut them down. And maybe AEW goes to that model eventually for a while as they build back up. So either they kind of like stay stagnant for a while and then eventually just over time you give up on it, or they stay stagnant for a while and then something clicks or something changes or something happens, right? Will they eventually have their Scott Hall, Kevin Nash moment, right? um the one thing to think about, I think, with them trying to make a positive out of this is WCW was like bottom of the barrel for years before they got popular, right? And they just kind of existed because Ted Turner had an undying need to have a wrestling company, right? Like, and just didn't care that they were losing money, which is kind of what Tony is probably doing right now. But AEW came in a different time, like we just talked about. They came in hot. They came in at a good time when WWE wasn't clicking on all cylinders, was only clicking on a few cylinders. Um, but they also had a bigger presence right away,
Yeah.
and so that's actually a detriment to their development because they kind of didn't start at rock bottom. They started somewhere in the middle, and now they've declined. Um, so I don't know. I maybe I don't know. It could take a few years though, right? Like,
Yeah, I mean,
something changes, and WCW's thing was that you know not only did they make some changes that made a lot of sense, and they put themselves into a position to skyrocket, and then they made the moves with Scott and Kevin to skyrocket, but at the same time WWE wasn't keeping up. I don't think that mistake will ever happen again.
no.
I don't think WWE will ever not keep up with their competition if they really like. Vince was too hard headed in the beginning because, right, his whole thing was like, let him have all those old guys. And he waited too long. And then once he figured it out and realized, then all of a sudden we had the greatest period in wrestling ever. So,
Correct.
I don't think that happens. Like, Triple H is not that stupid. Nick Khan is not that dumb. You know, The Rock is not that dumb. Endeavor is not that dumb, right? Like or TKO, however you want to put it. They will not let that happen again. So that's going to be tougher for AEW, but it doesn't mean they can't have a spark to make themselves a much better product someday. So
Yeah, I mean, it's
we'll see. We'll see. I expect them. They're just going to coast at this level that they're at, and they'll exist similar to how Impact has always just existed, right? Impact had some ups and downs. I don't watch it anymore, but it's out there. It's not like it's gone. It's
I would
they're doing the rebrand now, so it's not as hot as it once was, but it's not as bad as it once was either.
I would watch Impact if it didn't cost me $50 to add to my package.
Yeah, well, and that's another problem in general for them as a company is
Yeah.
not being readily available like
Yeah.
these other companies are. But just being the point that they've existed at a level for 20 years, in a couple of different iterations, but for almost 20 years. And they've never really gone out of business, but they've never been really challenging for a top spot either.
Who?
So,
TNA, you mean?
or TNA Impact, whatever you want to
Yeah,
call them. Yeah.
yeah, but they've done the best with it though, because I think they've been okay with that, right? And I think,
Well, and that's what I'm saying about AEW.
yeah,
I
but
think
I
he's
don't think
okay with this.
I don't think Tony's okay because he wouldn't keep taking shots or like he wouldn't do things such as the footage if he was okay being where he is, right? Like I feel
Mm.
like he says one thing, but internally, like his ego's getting the best of him. Like there's no way that your dad's the owner of the Jaguars, you own a Premier League team, and you own something else as well, and all of a sudden you're just okay with being here. And he said
Yeah,
how many times that they're going to challenge.
yeah, but that's where I disagree with that is because that's what a fucking wrestling fan does. And that's all he is. And he said
Well,
that
that's it.
today.
But that's the problem. That's what I mean. So maybe it's not his
But
ego.
that's why I think he might be okay with it because he's to a degree playing a character just as much as he is trying to run the business. And he said that today about how like he's having a time of his life doing what he's doing with AEW because this was his childhood dream to book a wrestling promotion. He's just living out a childhood dream. So he's as happy as can be. But part of living that dream out is saying that you're gonna beat the big guy. You're right. You're gonna be the best someday. Eric did it. Eric had to know when he was doing that he had at the time had no chance to beat them. But that's what you did.
Yeah. I mean, Monday Night Wars, he probably got a sniff of that he could beat them, right? Because there was a year and
Oh
a
yeah,
half period.
no. Yes, no. He had it, but I think he said it before in his earlier versions of the podcast. When he was being the antagonist to WWE years before the Monday Night War and leading up to the Monday Night War, he didn't actually think that he was going to beat them
No.
someday. But then all of a sudden it started to happen, and it was like, holy shit, they're taking the water cooler. That's the story we always hear. They're removing the water coolers from the building. We might actually put them out of business. But he's admitted that when he started all that bravado and crap, and he was, I mean, let's age him here, going on AOL chats to stir up controversy with WWE. You know, he was doing that because that's what you did, right? TNA did the same thing for a while, right? In they would bring in guys and they would just like try to take shots. And who was it? Road Dogg, right? Road Dogg went in there and they were the Voodoo Kin Mafia, right? VKM, right? And they made all these shots at WWE. Did they really ever think that they were going to be the number one, deal? And they went head to head for a while with WWE. When Jeff Jarrett was helping run things, they went to Monday nights. Like, how crazy was that?
Yeah, yeah, it'll be interesting. I just have a feeling that the issue you brought up with the ticket sales. Sorry, I was trying to phrase this perfectly. The issue you brought up with the ticket sales, I think is what's going to catch up to him before he realizes he has to be more than a wrestling fan. Like he has to have to be a businessman. Because
Yeah.
did you ever see the clip of the Chris Van Lee podcast talking to him about like what went wrong with WCW? And the three top things that he names: the roster was too big. There's a lot of people making there's a lot of people making a majority of the cash, right? Like there wasn't disparity. And two, ticket sales. Can you not say all three of those right now about AEW?
Yeah, for the most part, you can.
Right.
That's why I say with that, I definitely agree with that as far as um, when it comes down to ticket sales is something he's going to have to address.
He's gonna have
But
to fix it somehow. Like there's no way
right,
around it, right?
right, eventually, or they're going to end up, you know, they really don't do. They used to do those sporadic house shows. They haven't been doing that anymore.
No.
Um, they're going to end up doing something like what Eric did, where they're going to find one or two or three spots where they do all their dynamites from, right? And just to save on travel and setting up and arenas and all that stuff, right? That's going to happen eventually, or going to have to happen eventually, because that will continue to just be a money suck on the business.
Correct.
But TV TV deals and ratings and viewership, if he stays on Wednesdays, and doesn't have other wrestling as a competition, I think he might be okay with that for the most part for now. Like, obviously you always want to do better, but like I don't think he's upset with what they're doing. And just on this point, Eric Bischoff shared something that Brandon Thurston had shared about I don't know if you saw it. It was on Twitter, I think today or yesterday. WWE's revenue breakdown right now, and it's a chart that plots out from 2022 until 2020 through 2023, and it's one part of the plots are business to business, like revenue they're making off of business to business, which is defined as television, digital media, advertising, sponsorship, licensing fees, and that. And then direct to consumer, live events, consumer products, pay-per-views, the network back when it was, a thing and all that. In 2018, so way back to 2022, it was 67% direct to consumer. So all 67% of the revenue coming from the live events and the products and the not the network at that point, but you know what I mean. And then 33% with TV rights and all that kind of stuff. And basically what you see are the two numbers are starting to converge. In 2018, it was basically 50-50. 2023, it's 80-20 licensing fees, TV rights deals, all that. 20% now with the live events and all that. So they've figured it out, obviously, that it makes more sense to get all your money from TV deals and licensing and advertising and sponsorships and all the digital stuff and the media. And you can still make some money, or you can still get some revenue from the live events, and obviously pay-per-views are going to have ticket sales and all that stuff. The network's not a thing anymore, but but it doesn't need to be nearly as much, because they're making $1 billion in revenue in 2023 from that 80% and only 250 million from the 20%, right? So AEW is going to have to probably figure that out someday too, that live events aren't really where you make your money, but you can't be losing money on it either, you know. But you're going to have to pour more time into making your product better and getting a good TV deal, a streaming deal, a library deal, you know, licensing out your trademarks for products and all that. But I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen with them in that sense, but I hope that they figure it out, because it's definitely always good to have more competition.
Oh yeah, for sure, right? And you don't want to ever see people lose their jobs, and like
No,
they have a huge
and I don't.
roster, so it's like
Right, and I don't expect WWE to ever get lazy again. With as far as not having competition,
no,
but
because Endeavor would never let them. They're
no.
they're
Well, yeah,
propelled by a
yeah,
whole other type of breed now compared to it just being under Vince. Like they're prepared by a monster that only sees dollar signs, and they'll do whatever they have to continue to make dollar signs. So
yeah.
it'll be interesting. Like I said, I'm hoping for the best, but I really do get a little bit worried when I see some things happen and whatnot. So hopefully, I don't know. Hopefully they figure it out because it's just I don't know. I that's the best way I know how to say it. I just don't know, but hoping for the best on it. Now to make a switch here to WWE, what are we on? 19 sellouts. They're on their UK tour. Was it Dragonoff or somebody posted? No, it was JD McDonough posted on Twitter that they all got a text message saying there's not that many comp tickets still available for the UK store. Both shows are sold out. So they're even telling wrestlers, don't invite your family so we don't know who's coming. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so that's
Yeah.
crazy. That's crazy. Yeah, like we talked about earlier, they've been having a crazy match that I wish I got to see live. So as of today, the live event was Becky Lynch defeating Piper Nevin, Ricochet versus JD, which would probably be pretty good again. Jay Uso defeats Drew McIntyre. Damian Priest defeats Xavier Woods. It's a weird match, but just to kill time, why not? Tegan Knox and
It's kind of weird.
Tegan Knox and Natalia versus Shayna Baszler and Zoe Stark. So they're still thinking that Shayna Baszler and Zoe Stark thing is something, even though it's not. And Sammy defeats Chad Gable, Gunther, and Finn Balor. That's a hell of a four-way match, man. That puts the IC title back on like being prestige if they can keep having those types of matches with it, right? Like that would be
Yeah.
crazy to see in person, right? Like them all taking chops from Gunther, Chad suplexing Gunther. I don't know. It's probably awesome. It has to be awesome. And then the undisputed WWE Universal Champion,
Oh! What'd you call him?
the undisputed WWE Universal Champion.
It's not how he's being announced anymore.
That's fine. Cody Rhodes defeats Shinsuke Nakamura, which that's a weird callback, right, to that feud that they had when he didn't have the title, but still pretty cool, I
Yeah.
guess, to see that develop into something. And of course, Becky was. So I wonder if Becky's doing like this UK tour, and then that's when she's officially done.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I thought she would be taking the time too, and I noticed like Seth's name wasn't in that.
Yeah.
But he could be legitimately hurt too. I mean, either he did an amazing sell job, or I think he actually was hurt on the second night of
Oh, and
WrestleMania.
don't forget his back's still broken in 2 places. That hasn't healed.
Right.
Like so.
No, but like obviously he's been wrestling through that for a long time. But
Yeah, but
his knee looked really screwed up. Like,
yeah.
and
So,
I didn't think it was a sell job at the very end
no,
that
I didn't either. I
Chad
didn't
Nolan
either.
had to help him out.
No, no, I didn't either. But like, that's like he's been getting shot up every week to just be out there. Raw once again this past week was pretty cool, except for the fact that Rhea will be out due to an AC joint injury when she hit the wall. That kind of sucks because she was on quite a run.
Yeah.
I think that women's title is gonna have a fall from grace for a little bit because I don't know who you have pick it up. But I do also think there's a benefit to this because I think it also protects her when she comes back. That pop she's gonna get, it's gonna be nuts, right?
Yep.
Like it's gonna be.
Yep.
And she said she's back for blood, so you know they're gonna have her come back and just steamroll through everybody. And it's gonna be awesome, right? Because you're probably gonna have to see her against Nah, probably not Jade, but I could see them putting the title back on Bianca for a bit. Jade and Bianca go get the tag titles, and then Jade also gets that title.
Yeah.
I mean, but we do have Money in the Bank coming up in the summer, so we'll see what they do. They probably have to figure out a champion before then, right? For that belt, they can't leave it vacant till July.
I don't think so, no. Unless they make money, well, unless they do like a whole slew of qualifying
Tournaments,
matches
yeah.
and then make money in the bank for the title. But then that takes away the idea of having the briefcase, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, it's gonna
But they
be.
did they already did that once. It wasn't it a few years ago when they did the money in the bank inside headquarters. Wasn't for the women, wasn't that for the title? And then Becky ended up forfeiting it the next night to Asuka because
She's pregnant.
she was pregnant. So like that technically they've done it before, but um I like the idea of somebody having the briefcase. I mean, usually they do that story pretty well.
Yes, they do
So,
very well with that. Yes, as we saw with Damian Priest. Yeah, I mean, another good Raw, sold out, like we said. Still popular, still on fire. Still doing some of those crazy camera type angles with Jey Uso just walking through everybody in the arena, right? Then he goes and beats Sammy, and then they're both staring up, and then Sammy comes back through the crowd. That has to be one of the greatest entrances in WWE history. Is Sammy coming all the way from outside
yeah.
back in through everybody, right? Like whoever they got like in charge of the camera crew now, they're killing it. They are absolutely killing it. So I'm loving that. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Did you see all the people that also said that the Rhea thing is because she's pregnant? Which, if they let Becky come out and say that she's pregnant, I guarantee they were gonna let Rhea come out and say it's because she's pregnant, not because of her shoulder joint. Like, let's be real.
I also feel like that also would just be like reported by John or
Well,
other.
just like they did with Ruby Soho.
Well, and AEW let her
Yeah,
say it on Rampage.
yeah.
So
So that's what I mean, right? Like, so that was just a stupid dirt sheet. Just stop it. It makes no sense. Um, you can kind of see where like the bone was like her bone for her collarbone and like joint over here was like at least an inch or 2 inches higher, like over here.
yeah.
So you could see she really did something to it. Um, yeah, I
The
mean,
only thing I would say about the stupid pregnancy rumor is it doesn't really fit her character to come out to the ring and be like, I'm pregnant, you know? But
yeah,
I still don't think that that's what the reason
no,
is.
no, you could definitely
Yeah.
see like there was something going on with the bone for sure.
Right.
And the whole thing with the sleeve is because they can't cast that, right? Like, there's no way for them to build you a cast so it can still like
Right. So
be
she just
functional.
keep it as still as possible, right?
Correct, or elevated as possible. Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's like it's just stupid. Um, but what's your thoughts? So Cody giving Jay the hug towards the end, whatnot, them doing their best friend thing. The rumor is that's Cody preparing for the draft. They go to SmackDown, and that's basically him giving Jay Monday Night Raw. How do you feel about that? Do you think Jay can handle that?
Oh, currently, yeah, I think he could. Yeah, I think so for sure. Didn't somebody report that yeah, Cody's listed as a SmackDown wrestler now on their website.
Okay, so yeah, so it's getting ready to.
But I mean, I also think though because that's partially because he won the SmackDown belt.
Correct.
Like, isn't that kind of how they've been doing it?
I
Like
believe
that
so.
belt was for SmackDown, so if you win it, you move to the brand the
That has
belt
the
was
belt,
from.
right?
because Damian was always on Raw, but he's still listed as being on Raw,
Yeah.
and Bailey's now listed for SmackDown too, and she was on Raw.
Yeah. But the thing about Io in that title, they went to both shows.
Well, they've all been kind of going to both shows
Lately,
you know,
yeah.
the champions, but like as far as like where the belts were at the time of the I mean, right? Because the last draft happened, Roman was drafted to SmackDown, and then they unveiled the world title, right, on Raw, and had a tournament, right, and then Seth carried it, right. And that tournament had Raw and SmackDown wrestlers, but they clarified whoever wins will be a Raw brand, even if it's a SmackDown guy. So, you know, yeah, I guess technically Cody's a SmackDown guy, but they've blurred that line so much now that it doesn't really matter. I'll be interested to see how they handle the draft this year, because again, like they've been flipping back and forth for a
Right.
while now.
Right. Agreed.
So
Agreed.
I don't necessarily understand the brand split. I don't have a problem with it. I'm not saying that, but I don't really understand it anymore because it's not a hard and fast rule. I mean, I guess the belts sort of are assigned to a brand, but after that, and they don't really do war games based on or Survivor Series based on brand anymore either.
No, right.
Unless they're going to go back to that, maybe they will. That'd be fine.
Right. Yeah. It'll be interesting, right? Like it'll be.
Do you think we're getting a second set of new tag belts tomorrow?
Oh, that's a good question.
Because, you know me, I like looking at their belt lineages. Um,
Did something change?
Nothing changed other than the naming. So the new belts that we just saw on Raw are the World Tag Team Champions.
Correct.
So currently the red belt is gone
Right.
from the website, or it's not gone. It just has an end date on it. No, actually, it's gone. I'm flipping through them now. Sorry, it's gone. It's been replaced with the new one. The blue belt is still there as SmackDown Tag Team Championships. So my thought is, are they going to do what they've been doing with the title belts, which is one will be the World Championship and one will be the WWE Championship, right? Because Cody is now the undisputed WWE champion per their website, and Damian is the World Heavyweight Champion. Same with the women, right? Bailey is the WWE champion, women's champion, and well, it's vacant, but Rhea was the world champion, right? Um, so I wonder if we're getting another set of belts, and they're going to call it the WWE Tag Team Championship.
If they do another set of belts, I see it being the same belt. They just changed the color to blue that they put in red on the belt.
Maybe, yeah.
And then that's
I
what
hope.
they're gonna
I
do.
hope not. I hope they make it a little bit different than that, but whatever. That's fine.
Yeah, but I could see them doing something like that, right? It's a quick fix. It's technically a different belt. It continues the.
Well, and it'll probably say WWE Tag Team instead of World Tag Team. Yeah, I mean it'll be different enough. It would be consistent.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, I
so
don't
yeah,
think it's going to be
we'll see.
drastically different, but yeah, I could possibly see that. I totally forgot that we saw brand new titles this week until you brought it up. It just slipped my mind.
Yeah, they're not bad. Like I said to you privately or off air,
No, they're not bad.
they're good. They're nice. They look good. I
They're
just
not my
me
favorite,
personally,
but
I just the circle bothers me. The
yeah,
very round circle just bothers me. Otherwise, I think they're nice looking, but you can't get past how round these belts are
I
in
get
general.
it. I get it.
It just brings me to the 24/7 belt every time.
I
Every
get
time.
it. Um, so back to the Jay thing. Do you think they have to, when they go through with this draft, do you think they have to protect him? By protection, I mean, do you think they have to make sure Raw's a little bit stronger than SmackDown is? to give. So if Jay is off on a given night, or if the crowd seems to be fading on him, that they can have people that can step in.
I don't know. I mean, maybe to a degree. Like, I think you want to make sure you make both rosters strong, right? Like,
Yeah.
Raw's roster has to be strong because you're coming into your Netflix deal in
Yes.
January. SmackDown's has to be strong because you're flipping to USA, and USA is not going to want a, they're not going to want the B. Well, they don't want the B. Neither of them are going to want the B show, but it's although technically USA doesn't compete with Netflix in that sense, so it shouldn't really matter because they're getting the A show on cable. Um, I mean, maybe to a degree, but also with the amount of, like we were just talking about, with the amount of blurring the line and going back and forth, it might not matter because they'll just have Cody show up on both shows for a while. You
Yeah,
know?
I think that's what they're gonna do for a while. I think that's how they're
Yeah.
gonna protect him. I don't think they're gonna draft in a certain way. I mean, obviously, you're gonna see Jay go at Damian Priest quite a bit, right? And then you're probably gonna have a couple weeks of like the Judgment Day going after Jay, just like the Bloodline did, of like beating him down, beating him down, beating him down, so he's not fully healthy when he goes at Damian, right?
Yeah, I
I
I could
don't
be
hope
completely wrong.
they. I hope they don't have Damian dropped at him. Not right away.
I don't think they will yet. No. I because depending on what they're doing with this whole bloodline thing, which is just getting going, like none of these guys need a title to do a bloodline
No.
feud. So Damian can run with it, and Jay. So my prediction is that Jimmy's going to get drafted to the same show Jay is,
Yeah.
and that will start the beginning of their makeup, and maybe as part of the Judgment Day thing, maybe the Judgment Day goes ham on Jay, and Jimmy's the one who comes in and saves them, right? Um, and
Well, so this
then
is
we
yeah.
see what's happening with Solo and Tamatanga and Jacob eventually, and where Roman is, and when he might be coming back, and what The Rock is doing with this. Like, I mean, how good is this getting? Just when you thought, right, like this, not that it was the end of the bloodline, but just when you thought the bloodline thing was starting to potentially get a little stale, and then it was a little confusing with Rock and Roman leading into WrestleMania, like, what are we really doing, And like, it wasn't that it was bad, it's just we had our little concerns. Rock was overshadowing Roman, and boom, here we go. Like, man.
Yeah, and Roman is out indefinitely right now. Just based on he's working on a film with Eddie Murphy, and I believe it's a Netflix film. So he's gonna be out. You know, he's gonna be out for a bit. So it'll be interesting to see when he gets back, right? Because how do you think the crowd responds to him?
Roman?
Mm-hmm.
How they respond to Roman? Oh, he's going to be most likely a super baby face,
Mm-hmm.
right? I mean, that pretty much already happened because when Cody kind of thanked him and kind of gave him a little bit of credit, the crowd was chanting "Thank you, Roman." Like that doesn't happen for a heel.
No,
Like
no,
like because he's not gone. Like yeah, he might be on an extended break, but he didn't retire. He's coming back at some point, and if the stories are true that it's going to be, you know, Rock Roman leading two different factions, this that seems to be leaning to the Rock's going to stay heel for a while.
yeah, because he said he's
And
going after Cody.
right, and Roman's going to come in and be the baby face bloodline, probably with the Usos, who will have reunited at this point, going against. I don't know yet because they're going to need another guy if Jacob is joining the Rock side. If this is the story we're doing,
I think
and
so.
Jacob's joining the Rock side, and um, so there's
Because
four of that. There's only be three of the others, so they need another Samoan somewhere. So I don't know who they're going to get, but somebody.
Sammy.
Oh, isn't there another? Oh, Sammy. Yeah. Well, yeah, that's fine too. I was thinking, like, isn't there another brother?
There is, but he's still under contract for like a year. And he's like green, very green.
Yeah. Sammy, I guess. I didn't I didn't think about Sammy, but
I think the crowd goes uber if they throw Sammy back in there with them. Uber.
I mean, it would make sense with the J thing.
Uber. One of the final things I wanted to bring up. So, did you see all of the commenting on how Cody continues to hold the title? And people are saying it's based on Triple H being a big NWA fan, and when Ric Flair was heel, he held the title in the exact same way. That like sideway. Do you know what I mean? Like just like he's holding it like he's like holding a football,
like
or
a brief
something.
or not a briefcase, but yeah.
Thoughts
Like a portfolio.
Yeah. Thoughts on that?
I mean, it's the little details that they always do like that
Long-term
just like
telling right there.
well that and just in general it just impresses me that they do those little things, which also some days makes me scratch my head why other little things aren't done, but
right.
It's really cool when they do that stuff. Like
yeah, I'm all for it. And based on that, so Cody was asked, who would he want to work with, and he said in another life he feels he would be the best Paul Heyman guy. If you turn Cody heel, do you do it? Do you give him the Paul?
I mean, not anytime soon, but a long time from now, sure.
You right?
For sure. He can have to a degree, he can have a Hulk Hogan like turn. He can have the turn that John Cena never did.
Correct.
Right? Like maybe it's not a Hulk Hogan turn. That one's hard to replicate, but John Cena never did that turn. And I think Cody for sure could do that and could get real nasty if he wanted to be. And yeah, you put him with Paul to do that. I mean, Paul's great with the heels in that sense. Like,
well, just think about all the family stories that Paul could talk about, right? He could talk about anything in regards to Dusty. How Dusty was the first to do this. How Dusty was the genius that created this. How Dusty was the best for this, right? And it could just bow down to the Rhodes are the official family of wrestling, right? Like he could just come out, just like Cody says in his entrance. There is more than one royal family in wrestling. Paul could come out and say, yes, there is, but there is only one family of wrestling, and that's the Rhodes, right? Like Paul could have a field day with this. Field day. Like just think about it. And then they bring back Brandy. She's back too with Paul on the side.
Yeah.
Like it basically writes itself when they feel like they want to pull the trigger, right? Like it wouldn't be a hard switch. It really wouldn't. And then especially if you pull him heel and you got Orton going after him, or if you have, or say if this is past December, and you have Cena starting his one final run. So then Cena's the guy that try and get the company back on track away from Cody, and John gets his 17th title right there. And then you have Orton come take the title off of Cena. Right?
Yeah.
Or you could go back to Cody being the bad guy and having him team back up with Randy, like they were back in the day. Like you know what I mean? Like the family tree, and no pun intended, but like there's so many storylines. Like you could go anywhere with it, and people will be like, "Oh yeah, I'm tuning in Monday and Friday." Paul's out there with Cody. I'm tuning in. I don't. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like it. Oh my god. And then especially if they get some Netflix writers like on the crew too. The stories they could tell, and it's gonna be back to the mature writing for Netflix. It's. I don't see it slowing down, man. Do you? Like it could,
No, I don't think it slows down for the
barring any
foreseeable
crazy
future.
injury, but
Well,
obviously,
even that right now, I mean, like the only detrimental injury today would be Cody,
yeah, that's what
like
I mean, right? Like that would be a
because
big.
he just won it, but they'd get through that. It just wouldn't be as good. But um, otherwise, after Cody, honestly, any other injuries to their top people, they can get through. Like, and the only reason the Cody one is so detrimental is because he just won.
Yes.
If Cody got injured a year from now, it's not going to make a difference for
Nope.
them. Like you know, the Punk thing really sucked, but I don't know. WrestleMania was one of the best we've watched,
Yeah,
right?
but
So,
and Dowie's out there screwing people over and talking crap.
well, yeah, and I mean, and
So he's still
did
there.
you see that? You see that clip of Triple H like talking about how great he's been, and that's why they've kept him involved through injury. Was because like of what a great guy, what a locker room guy he's been.
No, not Phil
that that
Brooks.
that cancer
Not
in
Phil Brooks.
AEW.
Not not the scapegoat.
Not one Bill. No, he's not the scapegoat. Jack's the scapegoat.
So
He's the reason for the scapegoat.
yeah, okay. Before this podcast gets off the rails,
Before it got
well,
off the rails earlier.
that'll be a bigger rant that I have. Well, we'll save that for a different podcast.
It's not worth your breath, James.
Oh, it is because it'll get me fired up. But yeah, I mean it's all gold right now, right? Like it's
Yep.
just it's like they're breaking records that the Attitude Era never even hit, and that's saying something. Like that is saying something. Because I don't think their roster was as loaded. I don't think it's as loaded back then as it was compared to now. I think they had a lot more talent in the middle of the card back then that like brought it along with their top guys. I think you can kind of see some drop off with the middle of the talent for WWE now, right? Like
Yeah.
we obviously see people all the time, all week on Twitter talking crap about Ivar, but he is really, really good. Like
Mhm.
really, really good for his size. Like Author of Pain do exactly what they're supposed to as a tag team. They just pound the piss out of people. Like so, I just don't think the middle of the card for WWE gets the credit that it deserves to help get the show along because everybody's waiting for that last hour of the show, right? Because they know that's when the prime time's hitting. Or it's the first hour of the show where they go commercial free. Like it's
Yeah.
one of those two. So it's great, man. It is really great. Yeah, I mean that's all I had on WWE. Was there anything else you want to talk about tonight, Daniel? Before I forget.
No, I guess I'll leave my title lineage discussion for another day because you get really fired up about
Yeah.
that.
Okay.
Just
Let's
then,
let's do that. You want to schedule a draft show next? Because we were talking
yeah,
about doing a draft show, right?
yeah, for
So the
sure.
draft show is not this Friday; it starts next Friday, correct?
Yes.
So okay. So we'll do so next Thursday night before the draft. We'll have our draft show. How many picks you want to do? Just so I can write all this down.
Uh, I think we did 5 men and 5 women last time.
I think so too. Okay.
I mean, I, yeah, I think that's fine again. I think
Are
5 is good
are
again.
we excluding injuries, or are we just going based off of what is happening now with the roster?
I think we go off of what's
Available.
last. I think we went off what's available. So Rhea would be out right now.
Yep, based on current rosters. Gotcha. Just like
Yeah,
2K.
yeah, yeah. Got to download that current
Yeah,
roster
gotta get
today.
that DLC.
And I guess So we opened it well, and then actually, now that we should go back and watch that episode, but I believe in the end we ended up putting in a wild card, and plus we didn't know what to do about NXT. So I think we
So
put in a wild card and an NXT, I think
I
too.
think this NXT is I think this year's draft is going to be the biggest NXT in fluctuation of talent that we've ever seen.
As far as yeah, the picks that they're gonna call, and then there's gonna be, I'm sure they're gonna have some people that are free agents that get signed because they didn't get drafted. Because NXT is part of the draft though, right?
Yes.
No, I mean like NXT is drafting as well again, right? On the show.
Yeah, because I think they're treating it like GM vote in the game.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, so they'll have Ava up to draft too.
Oh, great! Yay! Everyone's favorite GM. Anyways, um,
Wow. She's
anyways,
part of the bloodline, man. You better be careful.
yeah, she's part of the bloodline, like I'm part of Eugene's bloodline.
That's not true. She's actually part of the bloodline.
Yeah, right. Keep telling yourself that. So was Arnold's kid. Um,
Are you saying that she is not actually the Rock's daughter?
huh?
Are you saying that she is not actually the Rock's daughter?
So that's episode 26 of a
That's,
Botch Wrestling podcast.
wow,
Coming back
he
next
really is.
Thursday with
I
a
want a
draft
paternity
episode.
test.
Okay, easy there, Courtney Kardashian or Khloe Kardashian,
George.
whichever one you are.
What?
Huh?
George?
All
What?
right,
No.
all right.
Anyway,
Yeah, and we also did tag teams. Don't forget, right? So we did a tag team
we need to
counted
do a tag team. Yeah.
one pick.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm making that note now, so you can't try and rip me off. Uh, yeah. So next Thursday night, Dan, I need you to study your WWE encyclopedia because it's on.
It's on.
Okay, and
Yep.
and then we can, towards the end of the show, we can talk about your lineage issues and whatever old.
It's one of those little details that bothers me. That we just talked about, they make a point to carry a title a certain way, but they've changed the name of his title, but on the website it still shows two belts under his name.
And
So
remember when I
like
said I didn't want the show to go off the rails? So thanks. Episode
well,
26,
listen,
Botch Wrestling
you
Podcast. Dan's
you rant, I rant.
Dan's obviously gonna go bed really angry tonight. So
Yes, I am.
he's gonna be looking at his phone all like, damn lineage.
It just bothers me. Such an easy thing to fix.
Anyways, on that note, appreciate y'all turning in. Like, comment, subscribe. We're also on Instagram now as well. We've been posting a few things on Instagram when things go live or when the videos are updated to YouTube. We'll probably be doing a majority of our posting then and there because it helps avoid the bots. And Elon somehow had a problem with the Botch Wrestling Podcast Twitter account. So, on that note, have a good night. Adios. See you later. And fuck Oklahoma. Goodbye.
Whoa.